Some outlets are reporting that the suspect lived with a transgender partner.
This guy's not trans, but he's into furry culture and he's dating a trans person. It counts. And he's written trans messages or furry messages on his bullet casings, so we're good.
And additionally, Robinson's roommate, who's cooperating with the authorities, was his boyfriend.
And some are suggesting that a terror cell, transgender ideology, is responsible for its
psycho, trans death cult.
These are radicalized people. There is a domestic terrorism movement in this country. And let me tell you something I've not shared with anybody, but the last message that Charlie Kirk gave to me before he joined his creator in heaven was he said that we have to dismantle and take on the radical left organizations in this country that are fomenting violence.
So yeah, I guess you could say that the right wing is freaking out just a little bit at the moment. Every right-wing commentator in most of the Trump administration has jumped at the fact that Charlie Kirk's alleged killer seems to have had a transgender furry partner. If you listen to them, and really a lot of the mainstream media right now, they'll say that surely that means that the shooter was left-wing. Never mind that we're not talking about him, but his partner, and that we have no indication of either of their political leanings at the moment. It's made me realize that today's media is extremely ill-prepared to report on internet and alternative culture. Luckily, or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, I know a thing or two about it. Now, to be clear, I have no earthly idea what the motives of Charlie Kirk's assassin were. It could have been anything. It could have been non-political even. But I want to answer a couple of simple questions in this video. Could a transgender furry be alt-right and far enough right to actually have motive to assassinate Charlie Kirk? Well, yes. And this is something that has occurred largely off of the radar of people that don't intensely follow internet culture. It's popped into mainstream media here and there, mostly years ago, and people seem to have since forgotten about it. First, an easy one. Are there alt-right furries? Yes. We have to start with a group called the Furry Raiders, led by a guy who calls himself Foxler. Foxler and his Furry Raiders all wear a uniform that consists of a red armband with a black paw print in the middle, that's clearly modeled after the armbands of the Third Reich. If you ask them, it's ironic. They couldn't possibly be real Nazis because real Nazis would hate them. If you ask the furry community at large, though, these guys are not kidding about it and are indeed far right-wing. It's led to a lot of strife in the furry community over the past decade. Let's first take a look at this 2017 Rolling Stone article titled, "Does the Furry Community Have a Nazi Problem?" It describes how the 2017 Rocky Mountain Fur Con, one of the largest furry conventions in the United States, was canceled following credible threats of violence that the Furry Raiders were involved with. Initially, a furry that calls themselves Dio tweeted ahead of the convention, "Can't wait to punch Nazis," referring to the Furry Raiders. To which a member of the Furry Raiders replied, "Watching you get shot by someone defending themselves from unprovoked assault will be far more entertaining." The Denver police investigated this, and they found the threat of violence to be credible. As things got more and more heated around this convention, people that were headed to it said that we've got a right to protect ourselves, and they were going to bring weapons to it. This article also goes on to explain how the Furry Raiders are notorious for breaking rules under the guise of free speech. It mentions examples of how group members troll furries online and spread hate speech at conventions. The Raiders have an MO of publicly saying stuff along the lines of wanting inclusiveness and just getting along with people, but in person or DMs they act contrary to that. Does that remind you of anything yet? Because that fits a certain part of today's right wing to a T. We'll get back to Foxler and his Furry Raider friends here in a minute, but I just want to take a second to talk about just kind of how weird these guys' obsession with Nazi Germany really is. They create an absolute ton of Nazi furry fan art, and have even gone as far as to develop 2 video games, Furry Hitler and Furry Hitler 2. Some absolutely weird shit. Now, I'm not going to pay for these games on Steam, but I was able to find a little bit of gameplay footage, and it's as bizarre as you would think it is, and as obviously right-wing and not ironic as you might imagine. You might also remember this viral furry beach fight.
All we want, mate, you leave! You can let go of him anytime.
And here's a clip from somebody who is not a right-wing furry, explaining how this too was really just this same battle between alt-right and normal furries spilling over into real life.
I had the absolute pleasure of being front and center to this event. You can actually see me in the background of someone else's video. So what happened? It was the bright and sunny day at Bolsa Chica State Beach in Huntington Beach. Scarred was a notorious local furry who was banned for pseudo-Nazi artwork. He and his partner showed up to the meet just to cause problems. They successfully rage baited this guy, one of the admins, and he lost his temper and just started going ham.
So yeah, the chances are good that you might already know a little bit about these guys, even if you didn't want to. But let's get back to Foxler and the Raiders. Next, we need to take a look at this Slate article from 2021, titled, "What's Going On with Those Furry Nazis?" Right off the bat, it reports on these guys as a very weird but nevertheless very real threat skulking within Trump's America. It dives a little bit into the psychology of these Nazi furries. And it says that for them, the outcast component is crucial. Nazi furries use degeneracy, a word deployed in the Third Reich to describe a stain on society that needed to be purged to secure a white homeland, to draw a dividing line between themselves and other furries. One furry they interviewed said that the process that follows is a cult-like descent into brotherhood, blood and soil, and, what's most feared, possibly acts of violence. But do we have any examples of real-world violence possibly committed by these furry raiders? Absolutely. Maybe you remember in 2022 when mass shooter Benjamin Jeffrey Smith fired into a Black Lives Matter protest near Portland, Oregon. Or should I say furry raider Polybun, as he was known. Or how about the 2014 Midwest Fur Fest, where attendees were attacked with chlorine gas?
The Chicago Tribune, 19 people were hospitalized at a furry convention in Illinois after what's being called an intentional leak of chlorine
What's
gas.
a furry? Sent the hotel guests along with convention attendees into the cold night, many still dressed in their furry costumes.
While authorities never charged anybody with the crime, their prime suspect was notorious alt-right furry known as Magnus Deridian. In 2017, he would again try to show up to Midwest Fur Fest wearing a black, white, and red fursuit, and reportedly yelling Sig Heil before he was kicked out. So there are clearly Nazi furries, they've been a problem in the furry community for a while, and they've even committed real acts of violence. But how do we tie this into today's right wing, and even the Trump administration? Well, one way you can start to do that is through Milo Yiannopoulos. You probably know him, infamous far-right commentator. Well, he's also an infamous far-right furry. In 2019, he was banned from a furry convention in one of these dust-ups with the Furry Raiders. He's aligned with these guys. Milo was also the brains, or rather lack thereof, behind Kanye West's presidential bid, as well as his flirtations and then dive straight into the deep end of anti-Semitism with his buddy Nick Fuentes.
Yo, you know I'm here with my white supremacist homeboy Nick. We back.
In 2022, Milo facilitated a dinner between Donald Trump, Kanye West, and Nick Fuentes. So what of Nick Fuentes? Well, if you know him from just one clip, it's probably this one.
It's your body, my choice. And men, women again. Men win again. There will never, ever be a female president. Never. There will never be a female president, ever.
Nick Fuentes is an odd dude, to say the least. His fans, or rather his army, call themselves the Groypers, named after a cartoon frog meme. And they are incredibly alt-right, basically Nazis. You can identify these guys easily online, whether from their Groyper avatars, again the cartoon frog, or from their slogan, RKD for NJF, which stands for Rape, Kill, Die for Nicholas J. Fuentes, or their profiles will have the initials AF, or America First. It's not hard to spot these guys once you know what you're looking for. Nick Fuentes has used his Groyper army to harass Charlie Kirk for years in what he called the Groyper Wars. You see, in Nick Fuentes' eyes, Charlie Kirk was not far-right enough, mostly because he wasn't openly anti-Semitic. Nick would use tactics very similar to the Furry Raiders to have his Groypers show up en masse to Charlie Kirk's campus events. At many of them, most of the questions would ultimately end up being asked by Groypers.
Oh, here we go. This guy's a Groyper. Yo, look at this guy. Look at the patch. Look at the patch. Bruh, look at this Aryan over here.
Conservative movement. So behind the times.
Yeah, eat shit. Eat shit. We got this guy's a groyper. This guy's a groyper. I can tell.
Fundamentalist who should be criticized.
Groyper.
The genocidal behavior.
Yes. Yes. This is what's happening right now. This is what we're seeing live on the air.
I did not say citizenship.
Groyper. We made this a reality. The meme became real.
Now, while he had particular ire for him, Nick didn't just target Charlie Kirk in his Groyper Wars. He also targeted Ben Shapiro and others, even confronting Ben once in person.
Ben, it's great to see you. Why did you give a 45-minute speech about me at Stanford? And you won't even look at me?
Hey, he's with his kids.
Come on, hey. Free speech warrior, everybody. Champion of the battle of ideas.
Nick basically used Charlie Kirk's platform to build his own, as he's all too happy to tell you.
I took Turning Point USA and I f***ed it. I took your organization, I took your baby, Turning Point USA, and I f***ed it. And I've been f***ing it. And that's why it's filled with groypers. That's why your whole crew, that's why the people around you, that's why your chapter presidents, that's why your attendees, they're all groypers.
All right, but besides the Milo connection, is there any reason that transgender furries would fit in with the groypers? Well, you tell me.
Never having sex with a woman really makes you more heterosexual because honestly, dating women is gay. Having sex with women is gay.
All right. Hey, a woman fan. Welcome. We've never gotten one before. Hi. A female fan. Well, don't think there's a protocol for this. It's been so long.
A guy and a guy cannot have sex. It cannot happen. Cannot, I mean, you can make it work. You can sort of like hump an orifice in the same way that you could have sex with a pumpkin.
The thing about groypers is, they're all incels, involuntarily celibate. They can't get laid, and they're resentful towards women about it. There's another clip out there that I looked and looked for, but unfortunately can't find. It's buried under an avalanche of Google search results right now. But in it, Nick explains on one of his streams that it's all right for groypers to have sex with transgender people, because as he explains it, it's not like it was 20 years ago, because women today aren't fulfilling their roles, so you gotta get laid somehow. Afterwards, he says that he was just being ironic, like he always does after these statements, but that just brings me back to how the Furry Raiders acted, where anytime they made an absurd statement, they would say that it was just irony. And their whole thing was that they weren't degenerates like the other furries. Remember? So the groypers, you know, they're not gay. They're just having sex with transgender people because women won't have sex with them. Unlike those degenerates that are gay because they want to be. That's my read on these guys, all right? So a transgender furry would absolutely fit right into the groyper community today. If you take the Furry Raiders and everything they did and stand for and fast forward into today's political landscape, it's very clear which camp these guys would fall into. You also have to think back to that Slate article and how it explained that a big part of the psychology of the Furry Raiders was a self-loathing for their sexuality. And if you ask me, it's very possible that Nick exhibits the same thing. He famously did a stream that resembled a date with a catboy, and he didn't seem too keen to knock down rumors that that was the case. He also pretty famously once accidentally streamed gay adult content and blamed it on Israel hacking him. Now, I really don't think that the shooter in this case is from Nick's groyper community. I just don't get the gut feeling that that's true. Just like I don't get the gut feeling that this guy was some strong leftist either. In all likelihood, he's a nihilist or something of that variety, as tends to be the case in these lone wolf type attacks. I'm not making this video to spread the rumor that the shooter was a groyper. That would be doing the same thing that the right wing is doing right now that is pissing me off. I'm making this video to show that there's a reason that when that came out, a lot of people looked right, not left. Oh, and Nick's rhetoric itself.
It's not just that I'm telling the truth. It's not just that I'm a good broadcaster. They hate that I have an army. They hate that I have a Revolutionary Guard. They hate that I raise my fist and the groypers go into action. You know, because they got money and they got shows and they got stuff, but I got shooters. That's a metaphor. I got shooters in the streets.
This is the part of the video where I ask you for your support. I enjoy making videos and I have the time to do it, but it's a sacrifice that I make to be able to do so. I also think that it's very important for independent media to stay independent, As such, I don't plan to ever seek out sponsorships. If you want to support me, you can do so at patreon.com/awillroth. That's AWILLROTH. Also, if you enjoyed this video today, please like it, leave a comment, and subscribe. All those things are huge to help a small channel grow. And if you want to see me do live streams from time to time, I do that over at twitch.tv/AnthonyWillroth. Thanks for watching.